Mes CHamoru.
This is the KUAM Podcast Network Off the Record, where nothing is. This month, Edward Leon Guerrero, a proud Chamorro activist, joins us to talk about all things Mes CHamoru. Well, Hapaday Biba, Mes CHamoru.
Viva!
Viva! Destiny Cruz here, Nick Delgado, and our special guest, Edward Leon Guerrero, or Pulan, if you follow him on social media or any of the content he puts out. Great job, by the way, and really perpetuating and pushing out the Chamorro culture through social media.
Definitely not to do Smasi, Nick. I really felt that in my corazon.
And so I wanted to just kind of go down the line here, and we could start with you, Pulan, on what it's like being Chamorro in 2025.
Wow, what's it like being Chamorro in 2025? Oh my goodness, there's just so many thoughts just running through my mind just from that question in itself. Well, first of all, what it's like being Chamorro is the fact that we Chamorros have survived for hundreds of years. We first came here in the Marianas 3,500 years ago, 1500 BCE. And throughout that time, we've experienced so many things. And for the past 400 years, right, we experienced intense colonization. And despite it all, we are still here. We are surviving. And so one thing I would like to say for 2025 for being Chamorro is resilience. Resilience amongst all things, right?
Yeah.
That's one thing I just want to put there straight.
We don't just bounce back from actual storms. We bounce back from anything
Literally
that really comes our way, right?
Right.
Everything.
For you, Des?
Oh, that's a big question. I guess being Chamorro for me is, whether you know the language or you don't, I think as long as you are Chamorro, there's nothing that can change that. And so I think we perpetuate our culture in ways that we don't recognize. Like us just, for example, being on TV and saying half a day or taking ownership that we are Chamorro and representing that we are proud of our heritage and our culture. I think we are exemplifying what it means to be a Chamorro in this day and age already.
And showcases the saying, a little goes a long way, right? So we do it with the half a day.
Yeah.
Just to start when we put out the newscast. And every Mes CHamoru, we try our best to push out more of the Chamorro language from what we learned through our grandparents.
Right.
But for me, being Chamorro in 2025, it's even tough for me to answer, right? Because I'm a Chamorro man who's lived on Guam half his life stateside. And that's where I found the most pride of being Chamorro really shined. Because you see people with their flags, with their sticker, always talking about what it was like being on Guam, or also talking about never being on Guam, but hearing the stories from their loved ones of what it's like being from. They're like, oh, I represent Sinahanya, but they never stepped foot on the island. Yeah. And so I think being Chamorro in 2025 I would describe it as prideful, because you don't have to ever have been here anymore with social media, with the digital age. You can just showcase that the pride and being proud to be Chamorro, however you like.
Right. No, you're really speaking to one of the big hearts of the matter, which is in dealing with cultural identity in 2025, which is there's a concept known as roots and routes, right? We are rooted in our homeland here in the Marianas, and we take our routes to the States, right? To Europe or to wherever. So being Chamorro, it's now becoming more open. It's more fluid, and just like exactly what you were saying, Destiny, right? We're no longer putting this in a box where, you have to speak Chamorro or you're not you're fake Chamorro.
Or you have to be brown, like a certain color.
Yeah, exactly. Even though I got a nice tan right now.
Yeah, you do.
It might not look like it, audience, but I do have a really good tan right now. Yeah, exactly. It's now more open. It's more fluid than that. It's not restricted to any boxes or categories where you have to have this, you have to have that. So, and I really appreciate that. It's becoming more of a multifaceted, a ChatGPT word, multifaceted identity as it was in the past.
Yeah, we can't forget our cameraman behind here,
Yay!
Jen. Half a day, Jen. Viva Mes CHamoru.
Viva!
And so tell us a little bit about you, where your roots come from. What village?
Ooh, village. That's a great one. So first of all, my grandma would kill me if I didn't mention Tau Tau Malesso.
Oh, you guys from Malesso?
Hungen! Hungen Taina Tongo!
There you go.
From my mom's side, and then from my dad's side is Inalahan.
I'm from Inalahan.
Really?
Yeah.
Hey!
That's it.
Leon Guerrero. Guerrero.
Pungan.
My grandma's Leon Guerrero.
Hey, you might be my
I think
prim.
you're my cousin.
You're my prim.
There
nice
you go.
to meet you.
What's your last name?
So my last name's Delgado
Okay.
from Magana Heights.
Woo.
Yeah, but
Woo.
my mom's side is Martinez. My maternal grandmother, she's a Leon Guerrero from Manila. So there you go.
Guys,
Wow,
are we
we're-
all just
I mean,
cousins?
We're all prims here.
And that brings
go.
me back to the point of like having that pride when you leave home. We all eventually see each other as cousins. Of course,
Yeah.
we're not, right? In the bloodline. I hope not, because that's another story in
Yeah.
another location. But yeah, you just get that sense of pride,
Yeah,
really.
definitely. That's so true. Great points.
Oh, there you go. Now all you gotta say is in Alahan, right
Yeah.
there. Melesso, great points right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, growing up in Agana Heights, I mean, I always just kind of focus on what I see when I visit my grandparents, when I go to their homes. What are some of the
Right.
things, what are some of the traditions that I can pick up?
Right.
Which really has become second nature.
Right.
Like, you amen them,
Mhm.
you
Right.
kiss them when you see them, and it becomes a tradition when you see then your family, and then your older siblings,
Right.
your parents.
Yeah.
Why do you think that's something or how do you think we're able to continue to push that tradition? It's just that one
Right.
small tradition that we continue to help live on to this day.
Right.
Oh.
So like pushing that.
Because you can't force someone to just be like, go kiss, go amen. Like you hear it.
You do. When I was little, my mom would like pinch the back of my arm and she's like, you better go amen. And you're like, okay,
Yeah.
I have to go amen. My sweaty uncle who's barbecuing right now. But I think that, I mean, in many ways, it is kind of pushed on us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's instilled at such a young age that we carry it on as we get older, which is proof to me that the culture is not dead because we live it every
Right.
single day. We have done it for years, and I think it will never really truly die.
Yeah, exactly. And to do what Chamorros have been doing, which is borrowing, I'm going to borrow from your answer right there, Destiny, which is absolutely correct. Yeah, since we're young, it's instilled with us. It's normalized. We don't think of it as anything strange or different, right? Like taking off your slippers before you enter the house, right? When I was at the States and, they're like, oh, you could leave on your shoes. I'm like, I like cringe for that. That was a real cringe right there. So yeah, it's still, when you're young, it's a very experiential, right? Because, when we talk about culture, right, there's two things, right? There's the symbolic, right, which is what everyone, thinks of, like, the cultural dancing, right? The Laddie Stones, right? They're like, yeah, that's the culture right there, let's protect that and all that. But then there's also the everyday experiential, like you were saying, when you're going amening, right? And you have the cross, right? You have all that in the house, your grandma's. That's the everyday experiential, which people they just live it. It's a lived experience, right? It's not also just a performance, it's also a lived experience too. And so as long as we are still here, right? As long as we still say we are Chamorro, right? And we don't just give up that identity, right? Then what we do is Chamorro. We are always becoming Chamorro through what we do.
Yeah, Biba Mes CHamoru.
Biba! I felt that in my soul. I had to pause for a second. I was like, I feel that.
Yeah, I really do. So the meaning for me, for when I think of Mes CHamoru, I mean, these days when it comes to work, we talk about how we're going to make sure to put out the best, our best foot forward to promote it through our platforms, through radio, through TV, through social media, because this is just one time where we get to perpetuate that and showcase this is our island, this is our people, but we want to also find a way to do that all year long, right?
Yes,
So I
for
guess
sure.
for you, what's Mes CHamoru?
For me, what is Mes CHamoru? I think for me, every time that Mes CHamoru comes around, I am always rediscovering ways to rediscover myself, or actually discover myself. Because like I mentioned, like being a modern woman in a very modern world, it's easy to abandon your identity, but there's small things that you can take into this modern world and still perpetuate the culture. Like when I wear my sinahi, I'm still or my spondylus, I'm very proud to wear that on TV where, maybe people might have seen it before as chod or thought like there was a negative connotation to it, but I want to dispel that, I want to proudly wear that on cable TV
Yeah.
and showcase like my long chamarita hair. I don't want to cut it because I'm proud of this. Like my ancestors, there was a beautiful story of us like making a net to catch this big fish. And I know that's like a legend,
Yeah.
but to showcase those small things in big ways for me is like my way of perpetuating the culture. And yeah, it goes back to what is Mes CHamoru. It's rediscovering myself and my heritage and my culture.
Is that negative? Would you say if people refer to you as being chod? Especially these days?
I think back then, like growing up, everybody was always ashamed to be chod. Like when you wear like, it's very like specific things like wearing Scots or wearing your in your low rider or your big Sanahi. Like everybody was just like ashamed of that. But like there's so much pride and so much culture behind that. And I'm so proud. Even being from the South, people used to be like, you're so chod because you're from the South. But I take so much pride in that. Like I will proudly come up here in a low rider with the biggest Sanahi and be like, Biba Inalahan. You know what I mean?
Biba Inalahan, no bias at all. Biba Inalahan.
Biba Inalahan, we're biased over here.
And so I just have a question in regards to the chod, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
that's a really good thing you brought up. So like just in terms of being on air, right, and speaking, right? So are you consciously trying not to speak in like a chod accent, or how do you navigate that? Like
That's
even
a great
right now?
question. I think like for us, there's this thing, and Nick has been doing this.
I have a good answer to that.
He has a great answer,
Go
but
for it.
I guess for me in my experience, like in the news realm, there's this thing called a news accent.
Right.
And you always want to make sure that you don't sound like you're from a specific place so that the news can travel wherever. And so it's like a unspoken rule that broadcasters kind of abide by. And I do that for that specific purpose. But I don't think I ever try to stray away from an accent. I just don't know if I have one, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Like,
Especially when we have to pronounce like certain names or
Yes.
villages, we're not going to stray away from how they
Yeah.
should be pronounced, right? But I think for me, when I first got into broadcast, I found myself back home, and I was just speaking how everyone, if it's cold, it's cold, right? It's not
Yeah.
cold, you know?
code.
And then I moved to the States in the mid 2010s, and I was being told, hey, you speak a certain way. And I was like, I slightly got offended by it, but I realized, okay, I get it that the industry is asking me to speak a certain way for the industry, and it's not something personal towards me or my people or where
Right.
I come from. But I felt a little offended.
Yeah, I would too. I'd be like,
Especially when they're like, your skin's like darker, you should wear light complected stuff, and it's
What?
yeah. But they say that it's more of an industry suggestion. But when it's coming from certain people who I definitely know can't relate because they're not like us,
yeah,
you know, you just kind of feel some type of way. But
valid.
yeah, be that as it may, you know, I'm glad to do what I get to do here back home
Yes.
because even if it's not Mes CHamoru, Des and I were still on the desk, still kind of
Yeah.
clowning around and being our
Chopping it
true Chamorro selves.
Yeah.
And we're gonna be chod all. We'll
Yeah.
be chod all year. We have
go.
to.
We're chod. Like, let's just put it out there. We are chod people. I don't care.
You don't know, but I'm wearing my Zorit's underneath. Not right now. Not right now, but
Same
underneath
here.
the
yeah.
evening desk.
Those Zorits are Zorying.
Right?
Yeah. And I think what I like about Mes CHamoru is that it allows those that aren't in like the public school system or aren't a part of the programs that perpetuate the Chamorro language and the culture. Like, look, I went to elementary school here on Guam, and I was in private school. Did part of my middle school before leaving island in public school, and I did have Chamorro classes, but I still to this day can't figure out why I haven't retained any of that knowledge. And yeah, that's where I am with where I speak and why I can't speak. It wasn't a common thing in my household for sure. I just hear it when I see my grandparents, but it's mostly just me saying in agreement to, I think I understand what you're
Right.
asking me until you point and you tell me what I need
Context
to
clues.
do. Yeah, context clues.
Yeah, I think like when I would talk to my papa and grandma and their first language is Chamorro, there's a lot of trauma that I think we don't really talk about when it comes to speaking Chamorro. That like I think that's like one of the missing pieces in that conversation is trauma. Like my papa would say he had American teachers who would tease them for their accent, or they would get in trouble, literally like get spanked for speaking Chamorro. And again, their first language was Chamorro. So there was also like this push to speak English or else you wouldn't survive in a modern world. And that's where the world was going at the time. And so I think there was a lot of trauma from our elders to speak and pass down the language because they wanted us to succeed. And I think that might be one factor. And you know what I mean? And why we don't speak Chamorro fluently sometimes, you know?
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely correct. Because even me, when I was going to school, I won't name the school I went to, but I went to a private school, and in elementary, you know, when we would pronounce words, right? I was like, you know, cow, right? Cow. The teacher's like, no, you're saying it wrong, right? You know, it's a white American teacher, you know, from the States, right? It's cow. Right, it's cow, and she's saying it with a southern accent, and she's like, boo. Yeah, so and then she's like, you're saying it wrong, you're reading it wrong, and I think that also, you know, was, you know, someone's like, oh wow, okay, so I'm speaking wrong, but this is just how I speak, you know. So, but yeah, I absolutely, and that's what our grandparents went to, and like you said, trauma. That's a big topic right there, trauma that we could open up and go down the rabbit hole with. But yeah, absolutely, because that has a lot to do with just the fact that why a lot of us, you know, I did a survey back in 2015, right, of over 500 people of young Chamorros, and it turns out that between the ages of 18 and 31 on Guam, right, less than 5% could hold a conversation in Filipino Chamorro.
I agree. I mean, I believe it. I believe that that's the sad reality. And like we always talk about this all the time. Do we want our children to know it? Of course we do, right? But how can we do it in a world where it's been so westernized, or you know, it's not an everyday thing? And so I'm proud to see a lot of the programs that are up and coming, but still, like, we need to do more.
Oh, absolutely. And that's, you know, why Mes CHamoru is just so important, because it's a reminder not just to us Chamorros here, but to the whole island, to the non-Chamorros themselves, that, hey, you know, even though we're less than half the population here on Guam, right? We're here. We're the indigenous people. We have a deeply rooted history here that goes back more than 3,500 years. We could trace our genealogy back to the villages of Inalahan and Maleso, right? So we are here and we matter here, right? So that's what another important thing of Mes CHamoru.
100%.
And there's so much more of us across the globe as well. That's what I'm happy to know. I wish I could meet them in every single country, Chamorro in every single country. So if you're watching, hop a day.
Hop a day, hop a day.
Viva! Oh, that's beautiful. I will say though, it's interesting, the statistics of how many children can hold, you know, or young people rather, can hold a conversation fluently in Chamorro. But like in Horao, we were just there a couple days ago, and like literally children in the 5th grade are speaking fluently in Chamorro. And like there is nothing, it's fully immersed. Like everything, their schedule, like everybody is speaking in Chamorro. It is their first language. They fly the CNMI flag high with the Guam flag. There's like a unity there, and I highly encourage you guys to check out Horao. They are doing honestly great work when it comes to perpetuating the culture, like really, truly, honestly.
And through your research, have you ever looked into that, behind like the divide that is between the Guam Chamorro and the CNMI Chamorro? We talk about this all the time, you know, because we try to cover all of the Marianas.
Right.
But have you ever looked into that yourself?
Oh yes, I did. And if you would allow me to speak for the next 2 hours about it, you know, I'm just joking around. Yeah. So yeah, this divide all started back again just due to the political division, right, with Germany purchasing the Northern Marianas right after the Spanish-American War. Right, the Marianas was united under Spain. But then after the Spanish-American War, right, you know, 1898, right, Guam was taken by the United States of America. And then the Northern Marianas, right, Spain sold them to Germany. So that division started right there in 1899 with that formal enactment of the Treaty of Paris. And ever since then, there was 2 different administrations of Guam and the Northern Marianas. And as we know too, the Northern Marianas under German, they eventually became under Japan. And then we had a lot of conflict in World War II, right? Where we had these interpreters from the Northern Mariana Islands coming down, Japanese interpreters, right? Chamorros coming down and, assisting the Japanese, right? And what people, a lot of people in Guam should understand is that they were under Japan for more than 2 decades. So of course, they're going to view it in a very pro-Japanese lens, right? There was stories of, Northern Marianas Chamorros, right? When they came to Guam, right? During that time, they're saying, wow, under Japan, our economy, our livelihood is much better than you under the United States. So you had that same division due to colonialism, right? So that's why I'm saying it goes rooted back for more than 100 years. And even to this day, right, we have just a political division, right, with the Commonwealth of the Northern Marianas and us still as a territory. And, while there is that political division, and again, I'm all for political unity eventually, what I do like seeing now is we're seeing a lot of the cultural unity, right, between the Northern Marianas and Guam. So while we might not be politically unified, we are at least culturally unified. We see efforts of collaboration with both, and I love that so much.
But I have to admit, I feel like there's still much more way to go with regard to the cultural unity, because there's still people set in their own ways, and that I hear at least, it's us and them mentality, and that's just like, come on, guys, we're all Chamorro.
I agree. I agree 100%. Hey, maybe the next generation, right? Your kids, your kids, your kids.
Yeah.
If we all want kids. But yeah, maybe.
Can you try to, I want to use some of the Chamorro language where we can, just to help close off in a bit here. And then also I want to let some of the visitors know what they can expect if they plan to come to Guam. But go ahead, try to speak a little bit and test us out here.
Okay, all right.
Oh, God.
Okay.
I'm scared.
Bonus and half a day.
Half a day.
Half a tata manuel.
Malik.
Hey, Malik. Oh, what's it? Half a bidadamu pagu.
Help us, Jen.
Papa, please don't watch this right now.
Okay, what was that one?
Like what are you doing today? Like, what are you doing now? Bidadamu, yeah.
Oh, bidadamu.
Yeah, half a bidadamu, Paul. Like, what are you doing now? What are you doing? Half a bidadamu. What are you doing? Half a bidadamu.
See, I wouldn't even know how to respond.
I know.
Yeah, just say
Podcast zoo.
You said you're a podcast. No, that's good. That's good. Last one.
Okay.
There's something easy.
Okay.
Something easy. Cow Chamorro how? Cow Chamorro hamzingados. Unga, there you go.
Viva.
Ooh, there you go. See,
Viva.
100%. Hey, right?
I literally only love Casinia Usai Kemwan. I think that means, can I go to the bathroom?
Oh, that's a good one to know. Because I'm always just raising my hand, like,
Jen,
shaking until.
Mana guy kemun.
Wow.
Dispensazu.
Yeah, but thank you so much for joining us for this podcast for Mes CHamoru.
And let me just say, Seduce Masi, Hamsin Nados for being such excellent hosts, right? Just your energy, everything you do, I feel it, I felt it. I know you're a Cancer, I don't know what your signs
Virgo.
are.
Sagittarius.
Oh, I'm a Virgo.
Oh,
I'm a Virgo
there
too.
we
So
go.
that's
I'm a
why-
Virgo rising.
There we go, see? That's why we got that high energy right there.
Yeah.
Hagumas.
That's Seduce Masi. Appreciate it.
Viva!
Real quick, because people watch this from all over, we want to let them know if they've never been to Guam, what are a couple things you would recommend just to kind of get them to know a little bit about the island? How would you describe it? I would say come for some beautiful beaches, warm weather year-round, and some delicious food that you can't get anywhere else.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I would say come to Guam. These are the most loving and respectful people that you will ever meet. So if you are looking for true companionship and warmth, this is the place to be.
Oh, beautiful woman too.
Yes.
And men too.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
not forget the men. The
I
lalahi. Right? Let's not forget the lalahi. Yeah, no,
Good.
I absolutely agree with both of their answers. Our food is amazing. Finadeni.
Yeah.
Ooh, you know, our beaches, right? Our people are amazing. Just look at us, right? And all that. And yeah, and if you want to know about history as well, especially, you know, and I know not just the history of the war, which that's important too, but just the history of being one of the first islands in this remote Oceania area to be settled, right? Very important. And look at that continuity of a people who have been here in these islands for 3,500 years. That's something you get to experience when you get here.
Guam, beyond where America's Day begins. That's what it should be.
I'm a Saki that for
You
me.
got it. You can take it. All right. Well, thank you guys so much.
Thank
and in 3, 2, 1, Viva Mes CHamoru. 3, 2, 1.
Viva Mes CHamoru!
Off the Record is part of the KUAM Podcast Network. Watch more episodes on the KUAM News YouTube channel and listen on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts.